So, we have a challenging um, reflection this morning. You, we have a pretty consistent group, so most of you were here last week when I was talking about how focusing can help us to be inspired. That to be inspired is to be touched, to be struck by something, and then to take it in and then to dialogue with it. And the focusing is this dialogue that enables us to breathe it, to be it, to incorporate it, to savor it, as Joan Claxburn would say. And I gave you um, 3 points, I think, because I like that three. But then I said that there was another point that I was going to wait until this week to give you. And that point is that that focusing can actually help us to be inspired by what is disturbing. And so this is a kind of challenging reflection this morning. So let's take a breath as we allow this idea to see what it does. Sometimes we are touched by something that is beautiful and tender and wonderful, and we just want to, we slurp it up and envelop it. But sometimes we're touched by something that is disturbing and even upsetting. We're not only touched, sometimes we're grabbed by it. Sometimes we're grabbed by the throat, grabbed by the guts of an image or a recognition or an interaction or something that we hear in the news. The images that have been very disturbing. And focusing can help us in those moments when we're not just touched, but we're grabbed by something. That focusing pause that we've talked about can make all of the difference between being frozen, being enraged, being demoralized, being turned off, being disempowered. That pause can enable us instead to be challenged. And I have some, I like the wording of this, I'm going to actually read it. A focusing pause can allow us to make something that's disturbing, instead of reacting, we can be responding. Instead of being demoralized, we can be moralized. Have you ever thought about being moralized? I think what's happening in the world today with the Black Lives Matter and the protests and there's many white awareness groups happening. In our community empowerment group is having one of those white awareness groups. People are becoming moralized in many, many different ways. Instead of being disheartened, we can be heartened. We can have more heart. It makes the difference between reactive rage and generative outrage. I'm going to say that again. The focusing pause can make the difference. And I really believe this. And I think you do too. Sometimes we can't make use of it, but other times we can really make use of it. It can make the difference between reactive rage and generative outrage. A focusing pause can help us, instead of collapsing, freezing, or fighting, it can help us to take responsibility. And those words have a very particular meaning to me. Those words can be used the way Jean put it, that it can be a bad word, responsibility, because it can be like, you take responsibility for your wrongdoing. It's like a finger pointing. And that use of the word responsibility can be demoralizing rather than moralizing. But if we think about what the word means, responsibility means the ability to respond. The ability to respond. Instead of reacting, instead of collapsing, the ability to respond. And that is so empowering. Can we take that in for a minute? Focusing can help us to develop the ability to respond.
Come here.
Yes, I'm recalling many years ago when I was in a workshop with Carl Rogers, and this was some of the South Africans will know when, you know, the toward the end of apartheid when this was. And I remember Carl Rogers standing up in front of this large audience saying, we are having a terrible problem in South Africa. We are doing terrible things in South Africa. We have to make a huge change. And I was so struck. I was a young person in my early 30s. What is this we? I mean, we're not here. We're in America. We didn't do anything. This isn't us. And he was saying, we. And it really made an impact on me. Carl Rogers was Jean Genlin's therapist, and Jean was very, Jean certainly had his own philosophy but I associate Carl Rogers somehow in my mind with Jean Genlin's daddy in some kind of way. And for him to be saying the we, it's not us and them, it's all we. We need to take responsibility. It was his act of taking responsibility to use that we. And it really inspired me. And it stayed with me all these years. That might have been 40 years ago or something. It stayed with me all these years. So focusing can help us to take responsibility, to be able to reach for, to take this ability to respond. So that's a lot of promises, isn't it, for focusing? How does focusing do that? Am I really saying that the horrendous things in the world, that we all need to take responsibility for them, that we all can take responsibility for them and be empowered by that? And am I really saying that a focusing pause can be the key to help us do that? I am really saying that. That pause is a way of getting yourself back, because what's disturbing steals ourselves from us. We go off to the races or we collapse. The pause is like this taking myself back. Here I am, and I'm with this. I'm with this. So there's a me and an all of me, including this huge implicit bodily knowing that I am, this huge interaction with everything. And there's this. And when I have myself back with that pause, then I can take this, the disturbing interaction, the disturbing image in the news, the disturbing reality, the disturbing conversation. I can take this and I can be interested in it. I can look at it. I can turn it over in my hands. I can say, you know, what is this? What does it mean to me? What does it call for from me? How can it challenge me? How can I be with this? How do I respond? How can I take responsibility here? So I'm going to do the attunement this morning because I want you to come with me and try out what I'm saying. I want you to see, you know, it's such an important part of focusing and the focusing philosophy that we're not just listening to something that somebody else is saying and saying, oh, well, but we're taking it in and we're seeing, is that right? We always ask that question, is that right? It's what Lynn says here, right? What do I know about this? How is this not right for me? What do I do with this? So we want to do that together. Are you ready? Are you ready to go on this journey with me? I see some nods. Some people look a little dubious. It's so nice to be able to see your faces. You know, some people say, well, I'm not sure. It's very early in the morning to talk about things that are disturbing. Okay, let's take a breath. And first, let's think about something that we're touched by, something that we want, that we open to naturally. Isabel has her beautiful sunsets there in Far Rockaway. All of us have something that we want to savor, even that first sip of coffee in the morning. So let's first find something that touches us that we want to naturally embrace. And we talked about how inspiration is breathing in, the in-breath. Let's breathe that in. Something that touches us. And when you find it, just raise your hand so I can be on target with some of you at least. Okay, so we're taking that in and breathing with it. Now we're ready to allow something to come to us that strikes us. Sometimes you can feel hit by something, struck by it that way. Something we're struck by, something we're disturbed by. Disturbed. It's like our comfort zone is all messed up there in the disturbance, like disturbance in a water, in the system of ourselves. It might not be the first thing in the morning, the most disturbing thing, but what wants to be thought about today? Something, could be a little thing. Your husband said something that hurt your feelings, or your neighbor was grumpy with you, or it doesn't have to be the most disturbing thing, but find something that strikes you right now and disturbs you right now, disturbs your peace, disturbs your tranquility and equanimity. When you find it, find a name for it. That's the first step always in making a relationship with something. So when I find a name, there's me and there's it. It has a name. It's not me, right? There's me and there's it. I have a relationship with it. So find a name for this disturbing thing. That's going to take a moment. And you might want to write it down or put it in the chat. I think it'd be wonderful if you put it in the chat. A name for the disturbing thing. And it doesn't have to, the name doesn't have to communicate it to everybody. It communicates it to you, but we want to hear the name anyway if you want to put it in the chat, even if we aren't going to know the whole thing about it with its name. The name is a handle for you of this. And when you have a name, then see if you could find some interest. What is this saying to me? What about it is so disturbing? What is it calling for? How can I be with this? How can I stand up to this? Stand up in myself to this. I'm going to give you some few moments there, but I'm just going to be keeping you company. Seeing how we might be able to take responsibility, be able to respond, not finding out whose fault it is, or who did something wrong or whose side I'm on, but the kind of responsibility where I can respond. I'm able. The responding may not be action. It might be further thinking. It might be further reading. It might be dialogue. It might be just putting it down in your journal. It might be just putting it down. Oh, I'm going to just put this down right next to me now. Or it may be action. I can do this. I can say this. And we're just going to get one little step here of how we can be challenged rather than defeated, how we can be heartened rather than disheartened, how we can be engaged. And when you're ready, you may not have been able to find all of that in these few minutes, but just to begin a process there that you can come back to. Let's find enough that we could come back to it. Then let's take a breath together. I'm taking a deep breath after saying all of that. And now let's meet ourselves and each other in this space between us. And the floor is open for anybody to say anything, including, Lynn, you're full of shit. Take that stuff and shove it. Anything is welcome.
Lynn, that's beautiful.
Thank you.
And helpful.
Yes.
Yeah. I feel um, that
Let's, this is an essay. Go ahead. Let's also remember to say our names, even though.
Yeah, no, that's not me. I paused when she spoke. It's somebody else.
This is Shashi. This is
Shashi. Okay, great.
I
couldn't see there who it was.
I just came to the conclusion that how disturbing the winds may be, I just have to walk the path of whatever is needed, whatever I can do, whatever I can contribute. That is all I can do, that I walk the path with those who are walking their paths. And some of those paths are hard and bumpy and thorny and scary, but I walk the path with them. That's all I can do.
Yes, yes, yes. And that's so much. That's a lot to do. And it inspires me when you say that, Shashi. And I think, oh, yes, Lynn, I'm walking my path too. And I'm walking the path with others. And that's a lot to do. There's a book that my friend just got me about where by Ram Dass about we're just walking each other home. It reminds me of that.
Yeah, it's walking each other home. I didn't think about that, but I don't know what the home is, but at least I can walk the path.
Yes, yes,
Walk
yes.
the path with them. Yeah.
Mhm.
In whatever capacity I can, I'll walk the path.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, that's our big job as helpers, right? Is to walk the path with others. Anything else? Anything is welcome. And especially
like to-
people who haven't spoken before. Yes.
I'd like to say something. This is Banu.
Banu, hello.
Hi. I wasn't sure how I was going to connect with it, but then I realized it was a great experience for me, especially the first part of it, because often where I am right now, we're all overwhelmed by so much. And I know it's sort of like that in the US too, but
Mhm.
it's been a bit longer here, what's been going on in the US for the last few years.
Mhm.
And with that sense of, okay, so I'm coming into relationship with what's disturbing. It almost gave me this sense of like, now I can file it. I don't have to react to it. I don't have to do anything to it right now, but I can see it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can see it and I can still live, like the rest of me can flow.
Yes. Oh, that's wonderful, Banu.
And then action is later, but it just that sense of, I wished it for everybody right now,
Mhm.
to have that sense of
Be
connection.
able to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you have a name for it, Banu?
It was, okay, here's how my process worked. I had the one thing, and it was more like something that's happening with the lawyers associations right now. And the name was something like that. It just flowed automatically. It wasn't about, I noticed if I tried to get a sense of it, if I tried to get too close to it, it made me feel stuck.
Mhm.
Instead, the name was something like, what they're doing to the lawyers.
That's all you need, right? What they're doing, right?
Yeah, and that's it. And I tried to see if I could get a different name, and that didn't feel right. That didn't feel
Right.
good.
I love that you stayed with your own process.
Yeah.
That's very inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you. This was lovely. Thanks. I'm very grateful.
Banu, can you just tell us where you are physically?
I'm in Turkey, Istanbul right now.
In Turkey. I was wondering that too.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Yes, in
I had
Istanbul.
it written before and I didn't have it. I apologize. Okay, yeah.
So I could go.
Go ahead.
So I'm Ruth. I'm in Jerusalem. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi. So that was incredibly powerful and incredibly timely. I just asking myself how much to share here, but what came from me right away, I had an incredible, a very, very disturbing phone conversation last night with a family member, my mother, who has this ability to just, it's like she's got a sword and it goes straight to my most vulnerable place. And after I hung up the phone, or rather she hung up on me, I asked myself, all these years of focusing and it still happens. So I didn't want to cry here, but there are tears coming as I cry. But the process that you led, Lynn, was so helpful because right away, the name or what was the handle was Mom. And I wish I remembered what you asked, but it was It was something about being with and how to be with or something. And immediately what came for me is like this sense of a very, very hurt, wounded, because I know theoretically she's got to be really hurt and wounded to say and do the things that she does. But the little girl in me doesn't quite get it yet. At any rate, what came for me is I pictured myself as me, the age I am, the vitality I have, the people who love me and appreciate me. And I felt like amazing after the session. As I talk about it now, I'm actually going, unfortunately, back into it. But a question came to me at the end. This is what I was left with, was it seemed like that sword goes to this place in me that then affects all of me. Like I kind of identify with it. And I forget who I am. I don't feel anything else. I just, I feel just so deeply, deeply hurt.
There.
And so I wrote about it this morning, and I've been working all day, so I've been fine all day. And it's almost 4 o'clock here in the afternoon. But I asked myself, is that little girl really the foundation? Because it feels like the rug gets pulled out from underneath me. And I kind of doubt that that could be the foundation of me, because I think basically I'm a really strong person that has.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
Anyway, that's it. And I'm sorry, that was very long. It takes so much time.
That was all. Had a whole unity about it, and I just want to say back that last part that making a relationship with it, that pause that you would do,
Yeah.
focusing on it, can end with a question, and the question can be a relief in a way, because then you're not merged with it. You aren't it. You have a question. And the question is, can that little girl be the foundation? And then what came was, I'm really strong, and we could really see a process there of how the focusing helped you to get to this place where there's a you and an it.
Mhm.
So thank you very much, Ruth. We have time maybe for 2 other comments.
Hi, this is Sheila. Just very briefly, I thank you so much, Lynn. I thought it was really beautiful, and I was surprised that the feeling or word popped in right away, as opposed to the many possibilities. And I was feeling this tremendous sense of disempowerment, and it was very old, very, very old stuff, not politically correct. It was just old stuff. But what came from that was that anytime I feel that, I can look deeper. And what really was under that was I get really crazed when I sense that people are being unconscious in their interactions with me. Now, I may be unconscious in my interactions with them. So I went to that place of, well, I can empower their consciousness by pushing the envelope sometimes, or I can just shut up. So it can go lots of ways, but the feeling was so strong, and the opposite of that feeling was also there together. I think something you said, which I can't remember, made me, well, I can hold these both together.
Right.
Yeah. So.
I want to highlight that. Also, that people are saying, well, something you said did that, right? And that's so interesting, because it's not what I said, but something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then that idea that you're holding 2 things together. They can be 2 contradictory things or 2 opposite things. And then we know when we can hold 2 things together that we're in that place. It's a place of being resourced, being able to take responsibility because we can hold the conflicting things together. Anybody else? One more comment before we have our wonderful breakout encounters.
Hi, this is Steve.
Hi, Steve.
Hello, hello. I just wanted to say that there's something about the sort of the trajectory of the pause, and that's inspiring. That brings inspiration and a step, and is inspiring in and of itself for me. In that it's kind of like going down and finding that bother or that great disturbance, and then beginning going to it, feeling it, having a relationship with it, and that naming is so important. And then there's something that it's like it goes down, and then there's this chance for there's something starts rising, and whether that's that step or it's that insight or that sense of something more than the disturbance, but that movement, is very powerful.
Yes, yes, the movement, and it's a hand motion that goes with it, right? It's that movement that's so important, that the pause allows the movement. It's sort of ironic that the pause is sort of stopping something, right? You have to stop and pause, but that the pause that's a stopping allows the movement, right? It's so interesting here, right?
Yeah, it's paradoxical.
Yeah. And it takes faith in that pause, right? Because it feels like when an urgency arises, like I have to do something, and then it's anti-instinctual to pause and to allow that reconnecting with ourselves, recollecting, recollecting. And then there's a different kind of movement than if we were just off to the races doing something. Thank you. Should we have well, we better not have, let's have one more because this is so rich. One more brief comment before we go to our rooms.
I'll share. It's Anessi.
Hi.
I really want to thank you, Lynn. I really got a lot from it. And I was struggling with something where I feel very overwhelmed with everything that's happening and wanting to contribute to the community, to society, to the world. And I only have a very limited amount of time. I can't be doing like 5 groups a week and being online in every webinar. And I have like a multifaceted life where I'm a professor. So I have all that being a professor entails. But then, I do my own thing and I have my own private practice, which incorporates trauma, focusing, and the arts and expressive arts. And so I'm in a lot of different worlds. And I always feel like I'm not doing a lot. And then when you asked a question, there was a question that you asked, and I said, I'm contributing in the ways that I can.
Okay, I'm going to say that back to you, Anessi. Okay? Is that right?
Yes.
Is that? I'm contributing in the ways that I can. That was how it responded to me. And I'm realizing that the pause is also, it's a stopping and it's a reflecting, but it also has the other person in it. That so many of you, and Anessi, one of them has said, when you said, and it's something about having Lynn with you in that moment, but you can have somebody else with you. I mean, even when I'm not around, and you have someone with you in the pause, even if they're not physically or on Zoom present there. Was there more, Nessie? We're gonna have to stop.
Oh, no, I know that we only have a limited time. This is fine. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Good, good, good. Okay, we are going to our rooms and we'll be back at 9:30. And I'm gonna take a moment to go get a glass of water, so my group, wait for me just a moment. And we'll see you at 9:30.
Then is there a prompt that we're considering in our groups?
The prompt is that each person will take turns to answer the question, can focusing help what's disturbing to be inspired? Can focusing help us to be challenged rather than collapsed? And focusing help us to respond rather than react? Can focusing help us to take responsibility in that way that we're talking about it in a focusing way? Thank you, Melinda, for asking about that, just bringing us back to the major question that we're playing with, right? And in the small groups, we want to just come back to that central question. Can focusing do this thing that I'm saying, and many of you are saying too, not just me, that it can do? And what is it to take responsibility?